Everybody cool tonight?
I told you the hit was payback for Egan's mistake. Or you can fucking bounce.
Wrong fucking answer.
What the fuck do you know about my campaign?
Pageant Inc. could make another donation.
Whoa, what the fuck is
I think
this?
the better question is, who the fuck is this?
These brothers, they looking out for themselves.
What's going on, YouTube? We back at it again this week with another recap of Power Book 4 Force. This week we're on episode 5. And if you've seen this week's episode, you already know that it's fire, so let's not waste no time. Let's get straight into it. So as we start out the episode, bro, we got CB on the whole crew, chilling outside on the block, and we got a dude in the wheelchair, and his name go by Willie. He having fun, doing what they do. They playing cards, drinking, talking shit. Now, as we see this scene that was already shown in the trailer, we got the Yardies coming back, spinning the block on everything that happened, all the way from the entire first episode of Force. We have not seen the Yardies in a minute. If you remember from everything that happened in the Force, because Tommy had dropped off one of their dudes, and they came back to spin the block. So after the aftermath of all that right there, the boy Willie that was inside of the wheelchair ended up getting popped. I think it was 2 to the chest, and he ended up passing away. So now CBI is like, man, fuck the Yardies, bro. We gotta retaliate for this shit. Coming over here to Claudia and Elise, and Elise is not fucking with the whole plan with Claudia to go meet up with Tommy, because Elise is like, bro, he's gonna try to off you because he's the main reason why you're even in jail in the first place. And Claudia is so obsessed with trying to take down Tommy Egan. This was essentially her entire downfall. It was written from this point right here for the entire episode. This was going to be her downfall. Claudia was so shook, bro. She was having motherfucking hallucinations of Tommy being in the damn room with her, bro. I ain't gonna fake I like this little scene right here, because she may think she all big and bad, but deep down inside she's scared in the mother. So coming over here to Tommy and Maria, we know they having a whole conversation about the whole Liliana situation, because Tommy told Maria, look, I had an old friend and she was taken away from me, and I gotta go get revenge. Now is the perfect time because Claudia is out of jail. Coming over here to Claudia and Tommy ends up calling Claudia, telling her look, if you want to bury the hatchet, we committed this one location to help take out Ortega, because I know he's not gonna be happy with you being out of prison and he coming after me. So just make sure you come along. So coming over here to Justin and Stacey Marks, Justin is basically telling him look, the CPD don't really got a good eye for you from all the shit that happened in the past with the whole lawsuit. And Stacey Marks is saying, look, that was the whole DOJ's stuff and the whole investigation, and it was it was rampant in the CPD about the whole discrimination. And we also know that Justin wanted $100,000 off the top, for her to get the support of CPD. And Stacey wasn't really buzzing at first, and she said, I really can't do that. And Stacey Marks ended up playing ball, telling him look, I'll take the mirrors off of CPD's back if you guarantee I'll get the support of the police force. And he agreed with it, and he told her that the police force will be attending your candidacy speech. Let you know that we got the full support of CPD, but we know that when we see that scene, that the police officers will end up turning their back on Stacey Marks during her speech. So coming over here to Tommy and JP, we all know last season that they got into a falling out with all the shit that happened with Kay when Tommy had essentially made her overdose when he had gave her, them drugs. And JP wasn't fucking with Tommy because he just froze and just sat there and was gonna let Kate just die. And JP really wasn't fucking with him, and all the shit that's going on with D-Mac and him being back in the CBI. So JP ended up storming out of there, not fucking with Tommy, and none he had going on. He's just still pissed. So now coming over here to CBI, and they trying to figure out why the fuck the Yardies is after just a random hit had just happened. And Jannar ended up saying maybe because Tommy ended up taking on one of their men and they come back to retaliate for that shit. So Jannar is thinking in his head look, bro, we need to take these motherfuckers out, retaliate for this shit, go back, hit hard, and this need to be the end of that. But Diamond thinking in his head what if we let them join the coalition? What if we let them join? What if we let them join this shit? And Jannar is like, nigga, are you serious? Nigga, are you not hearing what the fuck I'm saying right now? So the boy Jannar ended up telling him look, how you gonna explain this shit to Bones and Big Smurf? How you gonna explain that shit? And Diamond told that nigga straight up, I ain't gotta search to nobody, nigga. I'm the head of CBI, I run this shit. And as you can see right here on this man Jannar's face, I'm like, man, hey, that's Big Bro right there, nigga. Do what the fuck he say, nigga. So then we gonna see later on in this episode review of what happened and what ended up going on with that plan. Now coming over here to Tommy, he finally meet up with Claudia, and they're on the phone. And basically, Claudia is trying to get Tommy on the phone saying some incriminating shit because, the feds is tapped in on to the call. And you already know Tommy playing this move. He on top of the roof looking through some fucking binoculars, buildings away. So Claudia don't see him, but she essentially knows that he probably out there and he is looking. And she tried to get Tommy on the phone talking about Liliana, but Tommy said He don't know who that is. And she also tried to get him on the call talking about the whole coke business that was going on in the Viagra Triangle that her, CBI, and Tommy was all doing. And Tommy was on the phone telling her, like, look, you shouldn't be saying that type of stuff on the phone because you don't know who gonna be tapped in listening. Point Stacey Marks already knew that her plan was already compromised, and Tommy already knew that the phone was tapped. And so he ended up telling Claudia, like, you know, I'll let bygones be bygones. I'll be in touch. Now, coming over here to Claudia and Victor, Claudia is basically coming over here to take her apartment back, essentially, now that she's out of prison. You know, she's sorry about everything that went through and everything that transpired in season 2 when she basically tried to get the nigga off with the whole shit that happened with episode 5 with season 2 with the whole Walter shooting and the hit that was called on Walter Flynn. And you can see Vic was like he was really on the fence if he wanted to really work back with Claudia, but he said, no, I ain't really gonna do that. You know, he asked her if she was wearing a wire and wondered how she got out of jail so fast. So he ended up kicking her out, and the girl Ray ended up coming up through the elevator. So as Ray is coming up the stairs, she ended up seeing Claudia as Claudia is going to the elevator, and she looked at her like, almost if you look at somebody that you ain't seen in a while, but you know, and you see somebody that look familiar. And you know, Claudia and Vic was going back and forth, having their little rant. Claudia ended up leaving, telling her that she can do better, and Vic ended up looking at her, telling her, like, look, ignore her, it's all good, everything's gonna be okay. So coming over here to Stacey Marks and her whole candidacy speech, we know that she talked earlier with the dude Lawrence, and you know, he was talking about, you know, how we're gonna show up for the campaign, then we're gonna be there, but we all know that this was another scheme that he was gonna play. We end up seeing that the police officers end up turning their back on Stacey Marks, basically showing them, like, you know, like, we essentially not really rocking with her or her whole candidacy. Now with a lot of this going on, with the police officers turning their back on her, and with her divorce getting out into the press, you know, Stacey been catching L after L after L. And in fact, she got a damn double agent working for her too. So coming over here to Ray and Vic, we know Ray in the last scene when Claudia was there, she recognized Claudia from the news. And at this point, you know, Vic just let everything go and told her, like, look, my name is not actually Jason Booker. And, you know, when Ray found this out, she just wanted to leave and cut ties immediately. So as Ray is about to leave and go into the elevator, Vic ended up pouring his feelings out to her, telling her, look, at first it was fake, but then you end up growing onto me. And everything I'm saying is real, and I'm risking my life just letting you walk out that door right now telling you this information. And you know all these hoes is in power, bro. She ended up asking him, was it real? Nigga ended up saying yes. She ended up walking back inside the house, and I ended up saying, man, god damn. Coming over here to Stacey Marks and Lawrence about the whole shit that happened during the speech. And you know, Lawrence is not letting up on Stacey. He telling her, like, look, everything I was talking about earlier with that whole deal, you know, the prices went up 50%. And he's essentially, you know, extorting Stacey to get CPD on her side because we all know that CPD is not fucking worth all the shit they got in the past with their history. And we know that the campaign money, our whole campaign is tight as hell. So we know that she's gonna have to end up getting that money from Tommy Egan later on this episode. So coming over here to Tommy and Vic is showing Tommy the footage of CPD when they turned their back to Stacey Marks during her campaign. They thinking of ways of how they can flip Stacey Marks to come into our side. Because if y'all know, in the last couple episodes with the whole donation with the campaign, told them, look, deposit some money into her campaign and make sure the money ends up coming back to me. So now they have to think of another way that they can potentially flip her. So Tommy ended up asking, you know, Vic, like, how did she flip you? And Vic ended up telling him about the whole situation that happened with Colin. I believe that was from season 1 when he had caught that body. And Stacey ended up telling Vic that she had a key witness against Vic to the whole murder. So Vic ended up telling Tommy about the whole art gallery place that she still goes to. And Tommy ends up thinking of a way how he can get Stacey Marks to flip onto his side. So coming over here to CBI and the Yardies, we know they meet up in the warehouse, and we know the Yardies retaliate for their crew member that got hit in the beginning of the series. So as everything is going on, the whole media is getting set up and everything is flowing, we know these niggas is being real disrespectful to CBI. And some of the niggas at CBI not trying to go for none of the shit they're talking about right now. They end up making a deal, like, you know, look, CBI gonna take their firearms away first, then y'all gonna take your firearms away first. So after both crews end up doing that, Diamond end up giving leader of the Yardies an ultimatum. You gotta get a nigga that shot Willie up right here, right now. And the leader of the Yardies wasn't going for that shit. He said either we agree to the deal you had before or y'all get the fuck out. And the boy Diamond ended up saying wrong answer, and out of nowhere, it was like, I think like 3 bikes came out of nowhere. He had motherfucking text. Great scene and everything about it. I just loved everything about this scene. So now coming over here to the girl that identified Vic as the shooter. We all know that Tommy ended up going to the art place that she went to. We all know that Tommy ended up offering her $25,000, essentially just to record her video of her telling the camera that, Stacey Marks forced me to handpick Vic and forced me into saying that Vic did murder Colin. So now I'm coming over here to Stacey Marks, Tommy, and Vic. As Stacey Marks and Vic is meeting up, we know Tommy pops up out of the blue to interrupt their meeting. Tommy, basically introduces himself to Stacey Marks and tell her that, the whole big donor that you had, well, yeah, that was me. I did all that. So you should basically be thanking me right now. Tommy ends up offering Stacey Marks more money, but, Stacey Marks ends up declining that whole offer and telling him, like, look, money ain't gonna buy you anything over here. Tommy ends up pulling up the video from the girl at the art gallery about how Stacey Marks gave her $25,000 and forced her to say that Vic ended up killing Colin. So with all the shit that's going on with Stacey Marks and everything that's going on with CPD, this coming out could be detrimental to her career and her whole campaign candidacy. And the first thing that Tommy asked Stacey to do was take the officers off of Claudia, but she ends up declining this and it'd be too fishy. So Tommy just says, you know what, just take it off our girlfriend. So now coming over here to Che, Diamond, and Jannard. Che was kind of iffy at first having Jannard around, but Diamond told him, look, it's cool, it's my brother, you can trust him. And essentially they came over here to tell them, like, we the none of the artists is out the way. We need a new re-up, and we can double the weight we pushing right now. Now that we got a whole new territory that's about to get taken over right now, we can essentially make you more money than what you're making right now. And as soon as Che heard that he can push more weight and make more money for him, Che essentially agreed with him and said, that's the first thing you should have said when you first came here. So now that we also see that Jannard and Diamond are definitely closer than what they were last season, and Tommy not being at this meeting right here, we can definitely see the type of time that Jannard and Diamond is going to be on. Coming over here to Claudia, bro. So we basically know that Stacey Marks is basically setting her up to go into the damn Lions Den, because we know that Stacey Marks is under the ropes of Tommy Egan now, but Claudia does not know this. And Claudia was kind of iffy at first, like, how the hell I'm gonna get inside this loft? Like, you probably got that motherfucker secured all the way down. Stacey Marks ended up saying, she's a federal agent, there's nothing that we can't do. And she sends Claudia to go off Tommy. Like, essentially, she didn't have to say it, but, Claudia got the gist of what she was saying, and, this is really what Claudia wanted, but she kind of didn't, because, going into the loft. But like I said before, Stacey Marks just sent her into the Lions Den. So coming up ahead of me, Ray, while she was at work, she had ended up seeing a kid that was coming into the hospital for a gunshot wound. And, she was just crying and real emotional. And, her coworkers asking, was she okay? And we all know that Mireya is pregnant, because later on in a couple scenes after this, she does end up taking a pregnancy test, and it does end up coming positive. And it was a lot of clues, earlier in this season and partially in the later on seasons of season 2 that she would probably end up being pregnant. So coming over here to Vic and his Northside crew, we know they pissed off about the whole Albanians taking over their fucking Irish bars. And they basically telling her, look, we got to do something to retaliate with this shit. And Vic is telling her, look, we don't got the men. They all went back down at the fucking mansion last season with Walter. And when the Four Horsemen came and they got their ass fucking mollywopped. And Vic ended up having an epiphany, like, you're right, I'm a Flynn. And that's where we see Vic end up saying, let's hit him where it hurts. So this point forward officially started the redemption tour for Vic Flynn. Now coming over here to Tommy and Elise. Tommy, kept it real with Elise. Like, look, Claudia is no good for you. She gonna just chew you up and just spit you right back out, just like she did to her old partner with the whole Dahlia shit. And Elise was trying to, she was like, oh no, Claudia will never turn to me. Like, man, bitch, yes she will. And Tommy offered her money, just like how Ghost would and OG Power. Tommy offered her money, like, look, get this money, whatever the fuck you got right now, just go and just do whatever the fuck you want, just get up out of here. So you ain't even got to be a part of none of this shit. And Tommy also wanted to know what was Claudia plan now that she's out of jail. Coming back over here to Vic now, he ends up calling Claudia and thinking about everything that they talked about earlier. And now that he got some balls now, he finally remembered who he was. And Vic ends up calling her, telling her that that he can reconsider everything that she said to him earlier about getting the family back together and building back for their legacy. But little do he know that Claudia's time in the Power Universe is slowly coming to an end. We are Claudia breaking into Tommy's loft. And Tommy already knew that Claudia was going to come, because at least definitely took the money and told Tommy that Claudia was basically coming to come off you. And Tommy was already prepared and ready. He was just sitting there waiting on the couch, waiting for her to make her arrival. So then out of nowhere, Claudia just gets to popping at Tommy. Tommy gets to ducking behind the couch. And, this is really the first time that Claudia, actually admitted to Tommy that that she did end up killing Liliana. And we all know what happens after this, man. So after all that happened and Claudia finally ran out of ammo, Tommy took advantage of the situation and ended up popping Claudia like I think a good like 4 times. Oh, I play Claudia, man. She definitely had it coming, bro. She was a motherfucking snake, though. I ain't gonna lie, though, bro. So we do know that Tommy ended up calling Shanti to help with the body. But we don't know where they ended up putting the body at. But we know he did end up calling Shanti because he tried to end up calling Diamond. But, Diamond didn't answer. And this one, Shanti ended up telling Tommy about the whole ordeal with the Yardies because, at this time, Tommy does not know anything that happened with the Yardies earlier with the hit or anything like that. So now we got that scene where Shanti ended up telling Tommy that, these brothers got their own agenda. Coming over to the last scene of the episode, we had Maria when she came into the loft and she seen a pool of blood and bullet holes everywhere. So Maria ended up cleaning it up. But when Tommy had ended up coming in, he seen her cleaning up the mess, and he didn't really want her to do that. He didn't know that she was going to be home before he even got back. And we all know that Mireya wanted to end up telling Tommy about the whole pregnancy, but she didn't tell him that this episode. But I do think she will be telling Tommy that next week in next week's episode. If you go look at the trailer, you can definitely get the vibes and see it that she probably will end up telling Tommy. But other than that, though, bro, this is the recap of this episode for episode 5 of Power Book 4 Force. This is a great, great, great episode, man. So I'm real invested into this season. We 5 episodes in already, bro, which is fucking crazy, bro. I don't even feel like it's been 5 weeks already, bro. So y'all let me know what y'all think down below this week's episode. And y'all, matter of fact, y'all let me know what y'all think of the whole season overall of itself so far. We 5 episodes in. So I'm gonna get on up out of here, man. Y'all like, comment, subscribe, share this video. I'm Los and I'm off.